What goes up must come down. Welcome to the Brand Breakdown. I'm Michelle.
And I'm Courtney.
And this is where we're going to track the rise and fall of big brands, from companies to celebs to pop culture phenoms and everything in between. Let's get started. Hey everybody, welcome back. So glad to be back in the saddle talking about the weekly wrap-up for the Royals. It's been kind of quiet the last few weeks, so you haven't heard from us on this because after Kate's announcement, we kind of had a little bit of quietness. Is that even a word, Courtney? Quietness? I think
it is now. Yeah, it is.
It is now. Yeah. Michellerism. Anyway, so we have a lot that happened in the news this week and a little bit last week. So we are back to chat about that and then to let you know when we're going to be dropping season 2 of the Brand Breakdown. Good morning, Courtney. I hope you're doing okay today.
I am good. I'm a little bit of a scratchy throat today, so if I sound scraggly, sorry. But
actually, you sound perfect. You always sound perfect. I love your voice.
You're the best. This is why I love to talk to you. You're just so
you have such a good voice. Mine is so squeaky like Mickey Mouse, and I know you guys hear it and you don't say it, and I appreciate you for that.
No, it's not. You know what they say, how like your voice sounds, when you hear your own voice, you hate the sound of it because you don't actually hear it the way other people hear it. Like, I do not think you sound squeaky or like Mickey Mouse. I think that's just your own
I
thing.
Appreciate that. I appreciate
You sound
that.
lovely.
All right.
And like a Southern belle.
Well, I will tell everybody I know that I'm a Southern belle. I am. Well, I would say I'm Southern. I don't know if I was ever really too bellish. I mean, I liked bows. Does that make me a Southern belle if I liked bows?
And your kids with like the smocking and you fit the bill. You fit the bell bill.
They're too old. They are too old for that now. I would seriously still smock my son if he would let me, but that would never happen.
He's like 14.
Can you imagine? Here, honey, here are your trucks on your
6'5", 14-year-old.
You look so cute in that t-shirt.
No way.
Okay, anyway, let's move on. People don't want to hear about my smock son. All right, so let's just get right to the meat of it. Let's talk about Aero first. As you all know, that's American Riviera Orchard, which is Meghan's new brand. So let's chat about it.
Yeah, for sure. So this is kind of where we have seen the most royal activity in the last couple of weeks. Like you had said earlier, after Kate's cancer diagnosis came out, it was all really quiet because obviously William wasn't working, the King's not working, Kate's not working. Anne and the Edinburghs were still doing some engagements, and they, as always, are doing fantastic work. We had a couple little blurbs here and there about Lady Louise, the Duke of Edinburgh and the Duchess of Edinburgh's daughter. We had some blurbs about the York princesses, but nothing to really fill an episode. So we were not here for a couple of weeks while we waited for someone to do something. And thankfully, as always, the Sussexes have come through for us. So thank you to them.
Bless their hearts.
Yeah, bless their hearts. So Meghan sent out the influencer/press kits for her new brand, American Riviera Orchard. I'm calling them influencer kits because I don't actually think any member of the traditional media received any. I'm pretty sure it was just friends and influencers.
And that's what it said in all the articles that I read, that it was only influencers and close friends.
Yeah. So I don't think it's actually a PR kit necessarily. They're kind of, it seems like actually, it reminds me of what that brand Poppy did, the probiotic or prebiotic soda brand, where their entire branding and marketing budget has essentially been influencer marketing. They have done no traditional marketing, and they're spending tons of money with influencers, and it's working for them. So it seems that American Riviera Orchard is kind of going that same route, saying, okay, let's build some buzz. They did that soft launch teaser a few weeks ago. Now they're sending homemade jam in hand packaged containers out to Meghan's friends and influencers. So they seem to be kind of going for a more organic marketing approach. But honestly, like, I just don't get it still. Like, I don't understand. Like, they went to market without a product to launch. Then they're doing this promo with a product that cannot be sold wholesale because obviously Meghan cannot wholesale sell handmade small batch jam that she's making in her own kitchen or whatever. So you and I had talked about this. My guess is that American Riviera Orchard is not necessarily the lifestyle brand we're all expecting. It is more to support the Netflix show that we know is coming, that is going to be a cooking show. I think it's mostly a cooking show. There may be some like lifestyle component in a la like Ina Garten, but
Whom I
I'm
love.
guess
I love her so
oh, I
much.
adore her. She can do no wrong. I adore her.
Hmm. So
Um,
love her.
so I think that this all is less about like a product launch and more about supporting the show. And I'm guessing there's going to be a cookbook that follows, right? So, I mean, if there's not, they're ridiculous. Like somebody from Netflix and Sussex land, please listen up. If she's doing a cooking show, there should be a cookbook involved. Um,
Oh, I'm
but I
sure
think,
there will be. I can't
yeah,
imagine there wouldn't be.
there's got to be. But my guess is that this is not, like I said, this isn't the lifestyle brand where we're going to be seeing product. This is all in support of the show that hasn't launched
It's not
because
the new Tig. That's what you're saying.
it's not the new Goop, is what I'm saying. It might be the new Tig because Tig was Tig was content. So rather than doing written content on the blog, she's going to be doing visual content on the Netflix show. And all of this, the soft launch on the Instagram, the jam to her friends, I think that is all going to be, like I bet in the first episode of the Netflix show, we see Meghan making jam, right? And we get Meghan's homemade jam recipe that's like the best recipe in the whole wide world or whatever. And I bet it is really good. Um, so that's
Okay,
my
so
guess.
so here's what I want to do. So first of all, speaking of Goop, did you see the article from Gwyneth the other day that basically said, "Please don't compare me to other women who
No,
are celebrities who have started brands."
I did not.
Um, yeah, so I have to find it. And so now I'm terrible because I'm mentioning it and I don't have it right in front of me, but we'll put it in the show notes. I'll find it and
Yeah.
send it to you. But basically, what she said is, listen, we're all women of power. So Reese and Blake and Gwyneth and Megan, and she mentioned someone else, I can't remember, who are all sort of these kind of, power brands. And she's like, I started my brand completely differently than all of these. I started as a newsletter and we've grown in these different ways. And it's like basically my whole life. And then Reese's brand was more like a clothing shop. Like it's different. So I'll have to find that. But she was very quick to say, like, nope, do not put me in the same category as all these other people because all of our brands are different. And she's built a multi-million dollar brand. So and as did Reese, but for clothing. I mean, Draper James is fabulous. I love their clothes.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So anyway, I thought that was a really interesting article that came out this week when I guess somebody was trying to compare what Meghan is doing with what Gwyneth did, and she said, "No, no, no, we're not the same at all." And I don't think she was backlashing, Meghan necessarily. She was just saying we're different. We have different brands. We have a different way of approaching things, and don't compare us. Like, we're all women of power. But anyway, so that said, I want to break down just for a second the things we like about the jam jar and the things we don't like about the jam jar, and then the things that look like they were unfinished about the jam
Mm-hmm.
jar.
Okay.
So the first thing is, I thought that it was cute label. I thought the label was cute. The way
I
it was
thought so
packaged
too.
was cute. I really thought it was pretty. I would buy it if like Bon Mama, which is in the like the whatever your local grocery store is. It's the little French jams or
Yeah,
whatever.
yeah. Mm-hmm.
I love, like, the first time I ever bought it, I bought it because that packaging was so cute. Now it's a delicious jam, but I bought it because of the packaging was cute. And this reminds me of the Bon Mama packaging. I thought it was so cute. I love the packaging. So all right,
Mm-hmm.
so there's that. B, I bet it tastes delicious if it was homemade, right?
Right. And she
Um,
wouldn't send it to 50 people if it wasn't delicious, like it's got to be
right.
good.
I'm sure,
It's got to be.
and I'm sure she had lots of tasters who were happy to put it on a jam or a cracker. Put
Yeah,
some jam on a cracker. I do like jam on a cracker.
I do too.
So like that part of it. Yeah, me too. I think I'm
I'm
gonna
like, oh,
have to jam on a cracker when we get off this podcast today
I like
because
the
that sounds
Welch's
delish.
grape on like a Ritz cracker or a saltine. So good.
Oh, No, not
You
Welch's for
want
me,
like
my friend.
you want like jam from the farmer's market jam. I'm just good with
Yes,
like, I got some
yes,
Welch's in the
yes.
fridge because actually my kids won't eat a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, but theoretically that's why it's there. And I just love a quick
I never had a
grape
peanut butter and
jelly.
jelly sandwich until I was pregnant with my daughter.
What?
Yeah.
Why?
I don't like savory and sweet together. That I've never have. Like,
Oh,
orange
oh,
chicken from like the local Chinese place. Nope,
yeah,
not doing
should
it.
do. Oh, okay.
No. And my best
Okay.
friend loves it together, but I
Yeah,
like my salty and my sweet separate. Yep.
everyone loves it together. Everyone.
Yeah,
Does that
no.
mean you've
Mm-mm.
never put salt on a chocolate chip cookie?
What?
Oh man, you are,
No.
oh my gosh. No, you're missing out. Oh, it's so good. So good. Or
No,
like
no,
a
I never
chocolate
have.
covered pretzel?
Well, I mean, I like a chocolate covered pretzel and it's kind of salty, but I just never liked when I was, especially when I was little. Now my tastes have changed a lot and whatever. And now since I had a peanut butter and jelly sandwich when I was pregnant with my daughter, I don't eat them. We don't have peanut butter in our house because we have people in our
Right,
home who
right.
have allergies. But, um, but I did, begin to like the peanut butter and jelly sandwich. I thought it was, delicious or whatever. But that was after like 30 something years.
Hmm.
Yeah, we just didn't have it in our house. Like, we just didn't have a lot of peanut butter in our house, and no one ever encouraged it. I had the stinkiest lunch on the planet. I ate tuna fish all the time. That's what my mom fixed me, and then
Oh,
that's what I
you
know.
don't
I had the
bring that to
stinkiest
school?
every day, every
Oh
day, every
God.
day. I had like bean with bacon soup or tuna fish
Oh my
sandwich.
God.
Or
Jeez.
the worst was my mom would I loved brie when I was little, and my mom would give me brie with crackers.
Okay, I
It's so
love brie.
gross.
I would,
Yeah, but
if
did
my
you
mom
want it
had
in
said
your sixth grade locker?
no, no. But now I would love it if I had brie for lunch every day.
Yeah. Okay, no one wants to hear about my lunch as a child. Let's move back. So anyway, so I loved the packaging. I thought it was really cute. I thought it was cute. She sent it with lemons. I think it's totally
Mm-hmm.
fine that she sent it to a bunch of influencers because if she's following any kind of other brand that's doing things like that, I think it's a smart marketing move. Totally on
Mm-hmm.
board with all of that. Now, did you notice that on one of the pictures, it looked like the label had peeled off to the side?
I did see that. Yeah, like it was not, which I mean, to me, it was kind of like, okay, maybe not the greatest quality control, but it also was more of like, okay, this is really hand done, like a pro and a con kind of, maybe
Yeah, I
less of
guess.
a
I just was
pro.
very yeah, I was very disappointed in that. And let me tell you why. I don't know about you guys, but when I have things that have labels on them that are pretty and then the label gets messed up in some way, because if you try to push that label back down, if you don't do it perfectly, you're going to get little wrinkles in the label. And you know what I'm saying, right? You know exactly what I'm
Yeah.
saying. And I hate that. So if I were an influencer who received that jam and I'm super excited about it and my label was peeled back, I would be so unhappy if I tried to put it back down. And then there were little wrinkles in it. It takes away the aesthetic of the label. So, dude, like whatever kind of glue, like let's upgrade because we can't have the label peeling off when you're doing a promotion for your new product. That's all I have to say
But
about that.
I will say that the material that she used for the label doesn't look like it looks like it has to be something easily removable because if the jar is going to be reused, that label can't get wet, Like it wasn't a plasticky vinyl type of situation, it was paper. So I think it was intentionally easily removable
All
because
right.
otherwise
So,
the jar isn't really, not that the jar is not reusable, but the label would disintegrate.
all right, we'll give her the benefit of the doubt.
Okay.
I'm totally fine with that because I
Okay.
think it's a cute product. And, like if she's going to be doing it in her kitchen and she's going to show us new ways to use jam, I mean, I'm totally on board with that. I do love a cooking show, and I'm not going to say that I won't watch it because I probably will because I want to
I
know, is
probably
it
will
any
too.
good? I want, and I'm not rooting for them to fail. I'm rooting for them to succeed. And I'm also rooting for them to reunite with their family. So, like,
Yep,
just so
same.
everybody knows, like, we're not anti them. We just want them to make smart decisions for their
Right.
brand.
And I
Okay.
will
All right.
say this is the decision they should have made from the jump. Like we've been saying this all along. Like she should have,
Yeah.
rather than going on like the victim tour of the last 4.5 years, they should have, like she should have gone back to the TIG immediately, or this immediately. I think this is
Right.
where they should have been the whole time. And I'm excited to see now how this goes, because I think that this will be like, I think this is kind of also her like niche, you know? She had the TIG. She wanted to do the lifestyle thing. She was already doing it. So I think that this is where she will thrive. We will see Meghan thriving here. I hope.
Yeah, I hope so. I hope so. I think you're right, and I hope so. And I'm excited to see what her kitchen looks like in real life because I love
Oh,
kitchens. So
it's not her kitchen.
it'll be fun to see where she's cooking.
Yeah, it's they
Oh, I thought
rented
she was
like
doing it in her kitchen.
no, they rented like some neighbor's house. It's this couple who are like, the article I found just listed them as like philanthropists. So I'm guessing just like generationally wealthy people who are like extremely wealthy. And they're doing it in their kitchen, which makes me wonder like why Meghan's not doing it in her own home. There's some overhead shots. I'll link it if I can find the link again. There's some overhead shots of the property, and you can see all the production vans like lined up. And these people's house has this big kind of like a vineyard slash orchard out in the back that looks like you walk right out from the kitchen into it. So maybe that's why she's filming there, because it has more of like the indoor outdoor vibe. Um, that's my guess.
Well, and also it could be that she wants some privacy within her own home, and I totally get
Right.
that. You know,
But
I mean,
then these
people
people, now we know what the inside of their house looks like and we know
but
who they
clearly
are.
they don't care, and it's probably one of like 40 houses for them if they're really generationally wealthy and just
Yeah.
philanthropist. You know, so they probably don't care. It was decorated by someone, and they're not invested in it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and and I think that, you know, if I were Megan, I wouldn't want to necessarily show my private home because it's just fodder for people to tear it apart, as we know.
Right.
So
And
there's
like
that.
she'd have to get the kids out of the house when they're filming. Like right now we're recording and I'm like up in my bedroom because my kids are downstairs and it's too hard to make them be quiet. Like imagine if I was filming a show for Netflix, how hard it would be to keep my kids quiet. So it's probably easier for her
Oh,
to go somewhere else than to disrupt the kids' whole day, you know?
yeah. I wish you and I were filming a show for Netflix. Just PS. That would be cool.
Netflix, where are you?
Okay, so let's talk about the fact that someone bought their name for a UK domain, which is Dirty Pool.
Yeah, wait, what is that expression?
Dirty Pool. You've never heard that
Dirty?
before?
No.
You know, like when you cheat, it's like dirty pool. You've never
Oh,
heard
oh, oh,
that?
like you're playing a game of dirty
Dishonest,
pool. Okay.
unfair, unsportsmanlike conduct. Um, like what I just said. Like, you know, someone did dirt. It was dirty pool. Someone played dirty pool on them by buying their domain. It just means dishonest or unsportsmanlike conduct. You know, it's not
Yeah.
fair that they did that.
Okay. I get it. So my thought on this. So yeah, like you said, someone had purchased Meghan and her company own American Riviera Orchard.com, but they did not apparently purchase the .co.uk domain. So somebody purchased it and then directed it to collect donations for like a food bank in the UK, I believe. And so there are people who are really upset about this and saying it's really unfair that somebody would buy the domain and then direct it to somewhere else, um, and like, you know, just leave Meghan alone. And then there are other people who are saying they directed it to a food charity, knowing that it was going to get a lot of attention and they're not doing anything necessarily wrong. And that Meghan's team should have known better and purchased the domain at the same time. And I've seen a lot of people buy domains of a competitor or even of somebody that they don't like, if it's like a political thing or whatever. And they put a lot of nasty stuff up. So I
Oh
think that
yeah,
directing it to a food bank is not the worst thing this person could have done. And
right.
apparently it's also, they have received a lot of donations from it. And I do think that it's
Which
kind
is
of
great.
on, yeah, for sure. And I think it is kind of on Meghan's team's, like that's on their shoulders for not being smart enough to purchase the domain. Like, why would you not have purchased? I don't understand what they were thinking there. They had to have known that this would probably happen. Um, so I
All right.
think that this is
So
like a on Meghan's team's shoulders situation.
all right, so conspiracy theory. Is it
Okay.
possible that they did purchase the domain and it is being pointed to the food bank to raise money. But in actuality, it's owned by Arrow, and eventually it'll turn into Arrow.
No, the guy who purchased it came out and said that like he purchased it.
Oh, okay. Well, they're probably going to buy it from him, but they're probably going to have to pay through the nose.
Exactly. Yeah. Like they're going to get it because they're going to be like, we own the trademark to this, da 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 da. And he's going to be like, cool, it'll cost you however much.
A lot.
Yeah. And I mean,
Listen,
like
that
they
was
had to,
smart.
I thought so. And, to get Sussex.com when they did their rebrand a couple months ago now, when they kind of like took everything off of Archwell and moved it over to Sussex.com and whatever, they had to purchase Sussex.com from some guy who already owned it. So they know that people do this. They know that people buy domains and sit on them, waiting for the opportunity for the person who needs it to need it. So I'm surprised that their team, this is another thing where I'm like, wow, I can't believe Meghan and Harry's team made such a amateur mistake. Like buying all the
Yeah.
domains is a very, like when you go to buy a domain, it suggests like, do you want the .org? Do you want the .net? Do you want the .co? Do you want the .co.uk? Like these are not weird things. And I'm just
Right.
really
And it's not very
surprised.
much money.
Yeah. So like, I'm really surprised that her team messed up like this. And I'm putting it on
Yeah.
her team. I am not putting it on her. I don't imagine Meghan is sitting there on GoDaddy, although maybe she is. I don't know. But I don't imagine she's sitting there buying up
I
the
don't
domains
think
herself.
so.
I imagine it is whoever is in charge of her web design, which is that company. It begins with an A. I can't remember now. It is
Yeah, you said it
called.
before in the
Yeah, I'm like
last.
looking on her article. So I imagine this was on article that they probably should have secured all the domains, or at least brought it to her attention of like, hey, we should have all of these. And somebody messed up a little bit, but I don't think it was her.
Yeah. Well, another thing that happens, and my husband and I talk about this all the time because he's in that field, is that if you search for something that you want to buy and you search in the wrong way, there's a way you can do it incognito and there's a way you can do it where everybody can see it. Um, People go through those searches and then they buy those domains based on those searches. So
Mm-hmm.
it could be as simple as that guy had already bought that domain because he saw that they were searching to buy it somewhere else and he just snapped it up because that 100% happens all the time. So I don't know.
What's interesting? So I went to American Riviera Orchard.com and it automatically redirected to American Riviera.com. So now the American Riviera.co.uk is coming up as a little warning thing. So I do think that they are now in the process of buying up their domains because now
Yeah.
there are things that are like redirecting and not
You would
accessible,
think they would have
etc.
had a web savvy team from their agency side, but sometimes you just miss things. It happens.
Yeah.
I mean, how many times have we had clients that we've missed things accidentally and the client comes back and is like, how could you miss this? And it's like, I don't
Never.
know
We
how
are
I missed
true
that.
professionals and we never ever mess up. Ever.
Okay.
Obviously.
Anywho, well, hopefully
We
they'll
are
straighten it
perfect.
out. But we are. Speak for yourself, sister. I am as flawed as they come. So there's that, and then I read that you saw there was trademark trouble.
Mm, yeah. So I saw a couple of articles, which this I haven't seen like floating around too. This I haven't seen floating around too much, but I've seen it in a couple places as kind of an also mentioned type of thing. But Megan's American Riviera Orchard is registered through a company called Mama Knows Best LLC, which is apparently the way that Megan is differentiating this company from any like Archwell production, or the TIG or any of the other entities that she owns. So she's got it set up as a separate LLC. And reportedly, there may be a challenge to the trademark coming because it says that Martha Stewart's company is Martha Knows Best LLC. And both are kind of trademarked under like, I this is like an article I read that like may or may not be accurate, but it said like there was some like contestation about the M Knows Best portion of it all, with Martha Stewart's company saying that like basically a company that has a very similar audience to hers, where it's a cooking show and a lifestyle brand and all of that, is too similar to Martha Knows Best if she's using Mama Knows Best LLC as like the company name. So we'll see how that pans out. Like I said, I hadn't seen it show up in many places, but I did see it float around the web a little bit. So we'll see. It may end up being nothing, but
Yeah,
keep an
well,
eye on it.
Martha's Knows Best would, that does feel a lot like it. I don't know.
Hmm.
So we'll
But
have
the
to see how
LLC
that
isn't the public facing part of the brand,
right,
So maybe it doesn't really matter. I don't know.
right. Well, so we'll just have to wait and see how that one unfolds because I don't think we know anything more yet. So let's talk a little bit about the Commonwealth Heads of Government meeting coming up. I guess it's not coming up too soon, but coming up within the next few
Yeah.
months.
So in October, one of the kind of most important meetings for the monarch is the Commonwealth Heads of Government meeting. So I think it's every 2 years. All of the heads of government of the various Commonwealth realms get together and have a meeting. Exactly what it says. This is not like hard to figure out. The King Charles is the head of the Commonwealth. This is actually a position that is an elected position. When the Queen was alive, she had been, elected as the head of the Commonwealth, and it was a position that she was supposed to hold for her lifetime. And then, upon her death, it was said that the heads of Commonwealth would decide who the next one would be, and they decided that it should be the next monarch. I think this was actually decided on before she had died, but it was decided like the next monarch would be the next head of Commonwealth. Technically, it is possible that when Charles dies, William will not be the head of the Commonwealth. The Commonwealth realms could decide, let's give this to somebody else. And there was actually, I'm going to digress a bit and back into like Sussex land, but when Meghan and Harry were working royals, they were supposed to be very, very heavily involved in the Commonwealth. Harry was named like vice president of the Commonwealth something, and Meghan was vice president of like a Commonwealth organization as well. And there was this kind of thought that perhaps down the line, Harry would be elected the head of the Commonwealth while William was the monarch, obviously, and that the role would kind of be split off a little bit. That was always just like a rumor, not even a rumor. That was just like a theory that some people had because of how prominently the Queen had positioned Meghan and Harry in Commonwealth roles, which was not something we had really seen before for any of the other working royals. And so it was thought that either it was to prepare them to be potential like heads of Commonwealth, or because the workload would be divvied up where like the monarch stays more domestic in terms of like, their visits are in the UK and Great Britain and maybe across Europe, whereas Meghan and Harry would be traveling the Commonwealth more. So just an interesting little tidbit about the Sussexes. They were definitely positioned to be heavily representative of the Commonwealth, and that kind of fell apart. But anywho,
Yeah,
so
that ship sailed.
and yeah, they lost that. But so there have been rumors, or there's been some concern since the king has been diagnosed with cancer about whether or not he would be able to attend the Commonwealth meeting, because it is this year in Asia. Off the top of my head, I can't remember where. But I think it's in Samoa, actually. Not Asia. I think it was in Samoa. And I believe that the Commonwealth meeting was supposed to also be in conjunction with a tour of Australia and New Zealand. So there was going to be this really large tour in October for the king and the queen. Now he's been diagnosed with cancer. And so people are like, he's really not going to be able to go. And so I guess it was put to William's office about whether he would attend the king's place. And his office responded that due to Catherine's cancer diagnosis, William would not be in a position to attend. So, and then it turned out that the king's office came back and said, that's irrelevant. The king is absolutely going. Like, he has every intention of being there. So it doesn't matter whether or not William can or can't go, the king is going. And then that has also now led to speculation about like how sick Kate really is, because October's a little ways off right now. And so people are saying, well, if he's saying he can't do something in October because of her health, does that mean she's sicker than they're letting on? And you and I had talked about this. I don't necessarily think so. If she's undergoing like a 6-month course of treatment, she would still be in treatment at that time. So it
Yeah.
might not be that
February,
she's
March,
sick.
April, May, June, July,
Yeah. So her treatment
August,
started in March. So like, remember, because it was like
March.
they found out when she did the video, she was saying that she had like just begun her treatment.
Yeah.
So
So
April, May,
so
June, July,
August.
August, September would be the end of her
Yeah.
treatment.
Yeah.
So she might just, William might just be playing it safe, saying like
I
she's
think
not,
that's
it's not,
smart.
yeah, she's not sicker than, it doesn't mean she's sicker than we know. It just means, because as far as we know, she had cancer, past tense. It was removed, the surgery was successful, and she is undergoing preventative treatment. So as far as we know, she doesn't actually have cancer at the moment, but she's undergoing treatment as a preventative measure. And William's not going to commit to a trip across the world with 3 young kids at home, not knowing if his wife is going to be, she might be completely done with treatment by then, but maybe she doesn't have her strength back. Maybe she's still feeling
Right.
not her best self. I know that my father-in-law has been undergoing, he had lung cancer, which is obviously quite a serious thing. And he had treatment for a while. He did chemo and radiation, and he's still not, it's been months since his chemo and radiation ended, and he's still like not back to his 100% strength. Now, granted, he's also in his 60s and like older than Kate and all of that. But it takes a while to regain your strength. It's not like you end your treatment and the next day you're like, oh, good, I'm all back to normal. So I
Oh
think
yeah,
William's probably
for
just
sure.
playing it safe, not
Which I think
committing
is
to a.
smart and loving and supportive, and I heartily endorse that.
Yeah, I think that their team right now, they're not going to make any plans that are too far out for the future. Not because they're keeping any sort of secret, but just because it's not the most prudent thing to do right now. They don't know
Right.
how things are going to turn out in 6 months. She might be fine. Kate might be back in full action in 2 months, and we'll be like, oh, look, we didn't even need to have that discussion. Um, or she might be just, not feeling her best. So we shall,
Right.
we shall see.
So, but William did go back to work, right?
Yeah. So this Thursday, this past Thursday, it's Saturday morning right now. So a couple days ago, he went back to his first in-person engagement. He visited a food bank in West London and a some homelessness initiative, I believe in Surrey, or I might have that backwards. It might have been a food bank in Surrey and a homelessness initiative in West London. But regardless, he was back in action on Thursday. He did a walkabout. He greeted the crowds. He helped make some spaghetti bolognese at the food kitchen. So he was kind of back at it, which is exactly the timeline we expected for William, because as we know, the kids had been on Easter break. Their Easter break is a month long. And so they just went back to school this week. So we saw him back at work, which is when we theoretically would have also expected Kate to have gone back to work, except for the cancer diagnosis. Um, but so people have been saying, ridiculous things like, oh, the entire Wales family is missing. Nope, this is just they always take this month off of Easter break anyway. The Waleses always have, like when they were the Cambridges, obviously, because of the kids' school schedule. And so William went back, and he also last week, right, it was the last week of the school vacation, him and George went to a football match. So we saw William and George having a good time watching, I believe, an Aston Villa match, because that is William's team. Um, and they looked like they had a great time. So, yay.
I'm so glad. I'm so glad. It feels like he's doing everything must be going according to plan if he
Yeah,
is out and about. In my opinion,
yeah,
that's just my
I think
opinion.
so too. And like if George, like he's taking George out to a football game where he knew, like, George would be shown on TV. There was like cameras in the clubhouse after. So I don't think he would have taken George to such a public thing if things were not going well behind the scenes.
Right. Right.
It,
Exactly.
so
Well, so for the last thing today, it looks like Harry changed his residency to the US, which is a big
yeah,
deal.
it is. So it's interesting. People are saying, oh, like Harry's taking a huge stand. And this happened for two reasons. First, the first reason it happened is that the date that he put on the paperwork that his residency changed was the last date that they were not owners of, but like that they had the lease on Frogmore Cottage. So when their lease ran up on Frogmore Cottage and they were essentially evicted on June 30th of last year, they no longer had a UK residence. So he did not have a residence in the UK. Now, could he have maybe put Buckingham Palace as the de facto residence, which is where a lot of royals have their office? I'm sure he could have. Or even maybe he could have put Clarence House and said he was like living with Charles. Like I'm sure he could have. But he put that he no longer has a residence in the UK, which is true. As of June 30th, 2023, he does not. But the other thing is that I don't necessarily imagine that this was so much like a big, huge snub, other than like something that legally had to be done because the entire world knows he no longer had a residence. I think it's also likely for tax purposes because if you have two residences, if you have like residences in two different countries, you are taxed in two different countries. Or if you have residences, in the US in two different states, you're taxed in two different states. So I think it might have also just been a tax thing. Like, did he want any income generated from Travelist, which is the paperwork that was filed for that's the company that he filed the paperwork for. Did he want any income or anything to be taxed twice because he said he had a UK residence and a US residence? No, probably not. So he was just probably like, listen, we lost our lease on Frogmore. I don't live there anymore. When I go to the UK now, I stay in hotels, so I don't have a residence there. Um, this does bring up the issue of the counselor of state role and all of that, because there are some specifications in the Regency Act. I think in the Regency Act, don't quote me on that, but also in the counselor of state provisions that say they have to have a UK residence in order to take on those roles. So without an official UK residence, that I think automatically removes Harry from contention for counselor of state, which nobody was really thinking that he would ever be called up to that anyway. The king had added Anne and Edward to the list of counselors of state, so not really a big issue. But people, I think, made a really big deal about it, saying like, "Oh, this is a huge snub. Like he's so done with the UK that he's changing his residency and saying he doesn't live there anymore." It's like, well, he doesn't live there anymore. That's why he had to do it. So I don't think it's that big of a deal. I think it's just a thing that happens when people move. You have to change your address.
Yeah, no, I think so too. I don't think it's a big deal. I just think that people were, curious about it.
Yeah.
Um, well, that feels like everything that we have for this week. What do you think?
Yeah. I think that is all of the royal gossip, the royal news for the week. Um, and now that it looks like things with American Riviera Orchard are picking up, now that things with, William is getting back on his regular work schedule, hopefully we don't keep having these lulls. We are heading into the busiest royal months. The summer is always their busiest time in terms of engagements and garden parties and ascot and all of that stuff. So it'll be interesting to see how the next few months play out with who's attending what and who's able to make a public appearance and who can't. Um, it'll be interesting to see what happens with trooping, because we know that the Ministry of Defense had put that Kate would be in attendance, and then Kensington Palace asked them to take it down because they weren't sure. And that's what kind of led to the cancer diagnosis announcement coming out, because they were like, okay, now why is Kensington Palace telling the Ministry of Defense they can't announce something that's taking place in June? So it'll be interesting to see how this busy season shapes up for the royals, because this is usually a hectic time. And of course, we have Harry going back to the UK next month for the 10th anniversary of the Invictus Games. And there's speculation about will Archie and Lilibet be joining him? Will Meghan be joining? Sources are saying no, Meghan's absolutely not going, but the kids may go because Harry is now really desperate to, I shouldn't say desperate, but he's really wanting to reconcile with his father and with his brother if he can. So that'll be interesting to see. There have been articles saying that Harry really wants Archie and Lilibet to know their cousins. Um, And the only way to do that is to have them be on the same continent as a good start. So we'll see. We'll see how that goes.
Well, I'm just rooting for everybody today. How about that?
I am too. I just hope everybody, all their ventures go well, everyone's health stays good, everyone just gets to be happy and doing something that makes them feel happy and not stifled, I guess. And hopefully, now that I think that I think now that Harry and Meghan have moved away from the victim tour, I think things will be a lot calmer. And maybe now they can actually be on like a real path of reconciliation because there won't always be this looming thing over the royal family of like, what's the next bombshell he's going to drop? What's the next interview that's coming out and all of that?
Right. Well, I'm really hopeful for no bombshells, honestly. I mean, they're good for our show, but I just want everybody to do well.
Same, same.
Well, everybody, thank you so much for tuning in. We are going to be dropping season 2 of the brand breakdown sometime next week, and we will be focusing for the next season on the brands of certain musicians. And if anyone has been paying attention to album drops, you might be able to guess at least a couple of the musicians we will be covering. But we will see you next week with a new season and a new series. You guys take care.